My name is David Meese, and I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel today. I have a special guest, Josh Mason. I wanted him to bring him on. He's been such an inspiration to me and the community, and I'd just like to have him to share a little bit of his story and get some advice from him today. And Josh, to start out with, just maybe introduce yourself. Tell me a little bit about your background and what you're currently doing today.
Yeah, gladly. So, when I got out of high school, I went to the Air Force Academy on my second try, and my goal was to be a pilot. Um, I ended up with a humanities degree and a minor in philosophy and a minor in Russian, and went to pilot training. My wife also went, and we both ended up flying the C-130 Hercules for a few years. Um, we started having kids, and she got out of the military for some reasons, and I swapped roles into cybersecurity. Started as a cyber warfare officer in 2017, and my first role was at Hurlburt Field at the First Special Operations Communication Squadron, flight commander there, uh, running IT and cybersecurity for this base of about 7,000 endpoints, and also the largest Air Force Special Operations Command base. There's only two dedicated Air Force Special Operations Command
Hmm.
bases, but um, worked alongside a lot of traditional IT and cybersecurity folk. Um, Ended up doing a lot of translation of the mission of AFSOC, of the pilots and the flyers, to uh, our IT staff, like helping explain like why can they never like get these things updated? Why do they have servers that uh, haven't been patched in years? Because it runs software that gets the mission done, and the contract was never made to last this long. And the contract to replace it has been worked on for years. And eventually, when it goes, then it'll get updated. And until then, someone is due to mitigate that risk. And that was my introduction to actually being hands on, well, close to hands on managing IT and security, was in that realm, helping figure out training for our staff, quality assurance for that process and our equipment, and having all of those people working under me to do those things. Mostly doing a lot of translation. The office work, the management, these like 8 staff meetings a week got to me, and I jumped at a chance to go teach at the Special Operations School, the Air Force Special Operations School down there, and taught introduction to special operations and SOF, special operations forces, air command and control, as in like who is your boss when you're flying your special little plane in Africa. You might have had like a boss tell you like, hey, you're flying here today, but who is like your boss going all the way up to the president, because in those realms it's different than everyone else. um so taught that a little bit. And then my time with the Air Force came up at the end of 2019, and I looked at a bunch of positions, and I was not 100% sold on getting back into like IT. I had been teaching. I looked at project management because my boss was like, Josh, you've been a pilot, you've done all these different roles. You know project management, you have an MBA. I was like, yeah, that's true. And so I looked at a ton of project management roles, and no one was interested. I worked with Stefan Semmelroth, and he got me connected to some things. Started learning about actually networking with people, actually connecting on LinkedIn, actually reaching out and saying, "Hey, I see that you posted this job. I'm interested in this. Like, could I be of help?" And that's literally that conversation with, "Hey, I've been working on this. I noticed your company. I saw that you just got promoted into this role. Congratulations. Is there any way I could help you? Because when my internship is done, um, would love to be a part of what you guys are doing." That's literally what got me my first job out of the Air Force, working at DeSita at DC3's the DoD Cyber uh, Crime Center, their Cyber Training Academy. It's been a while since I've said it all. It's a mouthful. And taught digital forensics, taught some just intro to networking and computer hardware, and my love, my baby was cyber threat emulation. I saw Heath Adams and John Hammond putting stuff out. John was actually he had taught the course I was teaching a year and a half before. He had created a bunch of the content that I ended up teaching to our uniformed service members and a bunch of our military civilians, and really just loved it. I had done that stuff in cyber school. I had played with it over the years, but hadn't gotten as elbows deep as I did while teaching that course. After about 12 iterations, I felt pretty confident in there. Joined up with You With Me, a company out of Australia that is trying to get neurodiverse and veterans and veteran families into real jobs in need.
Yeah.
And it could be cyber, it could be data, uh, jobs that will have careers that will last. And Tom Moore, great guy, doing amazing things. I was glad to be a part of that and help out with the cybersecurity pathway that they had there. They started doing OSCP, joined up with a cohort doing that, and then got the opportunity to work with INE. Neil and Jack and Philip Wiley, well, he was finishing up his time there, reached out and said, "Hey, I think you'd be great in this role." And it was the role Philip was leaving so that he could get back into pen testing, and it was huge to have him like reach out and be like, "Hey, I think you'd be good for this spot."
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, right. And thinking about it, I'm always blown away. He's just an incredible guy, and doing great work. And what we're doing with Cyber Supply Drop, what we're trying to do, what I try to do on LinkedIn, a lot of it is influenced by Philip and John and Neil and Jack and Jerry. Just trying to do my part. I feel like I've gotten so much from so many, and I just want to pay it forward. That was one of the things from Stefan. He worked with me a ton, and it was initially I was a client for Rainier Cyber, and he was trying to get me into a couple roles, and he got me some interviews. Even after I had been with Jacobs, got me some amazing interviews at companies that I felt like were a stretch. Looking back, I still feel like they were a stretch. I would have kicked ass if I had been there. Sorry,
You're fine.
but for the those hiring, it was a stretch for me to be going into those positions. But Stefan and I started uh, that whole relationship together. And one of the things was, I was like, how can I give back? He was like, don't give back to me, pay it forward. And since then, it was like, oh, right, well, you're pay it forward, I'll pay it forward. Let's just keep doing this thing. And I think we've been feeding off each other for a little bit. And I don't know who's doing a better job, and it really doesn't matter because I think a lot of people are getting help, and that's all that really matters. So that's, and then we started Cyber Supply Drop. Uh, I got a CYSA voucher from this high school teacher that I mentor his cyber club. Um, and he was like, look, I got this from CompTIA for attending their courses for instructors, and I don't need it. Do you need it? I was like, CYSA at the time I was helping out people become SOC analysts. And I was like, yeah, that could be useful. I'll take that. Um, put it into like my pocket and was planning to like study for it. Then I was like, I don't want to be a SOC analyst. Like I know I've been teaching this stuff. Like I don't need the cert. I had gotten
Right.
CISP the summer before. I was like, I'm not ever going to be a SOC analyst.
It's not for everyone,
Well,
said,
I was
but
just I would have to go back.
right. Well,
I'd,
that's true. Yeah.
but I don't have the skills to be like a SOC lead because I can't tell you how to properly do your job as a SOC analyst. That's like one of the mind blowing things. So I was like, I'm gonna give this to someone who could use it. Was working with me to build a room for on Try Hack Me for a hackathon. That was something I was doing with them, and I saw an opportunity to like, hey, let's throw in this Easter egg. You find the Easter egg, you follow the directions in the Easter egg, and first one to do it, or I can't remember how I did it. Maybe up until this point, I'll take all the names and I'll pick one randomly, and you win. Ended up being Tom Wynn, who actually found it, sent me the stuff, and that started something. And then people were like, "Oh, hey, here's some Try Hack Me vouchers. Give those away." I was like, "How?" Like just like what you did. Like that was a lot of work, but found some stuff, worked on a strategy, been messing with it for months. Eventually, a bunch of people were like, "Hey, we want to give you money to like buy something bigger." I was like, I do not want people sending money to Josh Mason. Like that, this just sounds sketch, and like I'm gonna get in trouble with the IRS or like something. Um, Freaked out, asked LinkedIn for help, and this guy Caleb, he's amazing. Was like, hey, there's this thing called Hack Club Bank, and they will fiscally sponsor your organization under Hack Club's 501c3. Then you don't have to worry about the IRS part. You don't have to worry about like setting up, getting money. You get this, you get part of the bank account.
Mhm.
There's a small fee for being fiscally sponsored, which I've then checked out, and there's a lot of people who will fiscally sponsor you. There's not that many that will provide so much for so little. Hack Club is really amazing that way. And it was like, oh my gosh, I could do this. We could do this. Uh, Spent like $12, got the domain, and just dove in. Was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Let's get this thing going. Um, had Max and uh, why am I blinking? A bunch of folks help out. Lola jumped in at the beginning. Taj jumped in at the beginning and just like got me so much support in setting things up and making a presence on LinkedIn, finding people and making giveaways happen. Michelle and Kimberly, and then Braden helped us like bridge and actually get content that would pull people in. It was amazing. And then like you and Brian most recently saying like let's do the blog. I was like that's another way we can help more people. We can make this go farther. And that's yeah, that's where we're at now.
Yeah, I feel like it's doing. I have to say, it's doing really, really well. Especially, with so many people following already. It's just within that amount of time.
Mhm.
How long has it been since you? It's been about 4 or 5 months since you started, founded
Yeah,
the
6 months
company.
now since we
6.
started Cyber Supply Drop as
That's
Cyber Supply Drop.
that's
Yeah,
awesome to go from that far. I mean, it's great. Helping people.
yeah.
So much giving back to the community.
Mhm.
Like you said.
And we've been able to team up with so many with TCM Security has helped out and given things. Security Blue Team is a huge supporter, and we even gave away a Security Blue Team level 2, which I think you can count on like in the dozens of the people who have been able to take and pass that certification so far. It's brand new. Uh, I think we gave away a PNPT. I've got another one to give away actually. Someone's donated a CEH, so that'll be going out in a giveaway this month. Probably via David Bombel. I haven't told him yet, but that's something I gotta ask about today if he was interested in that for his Christmas giveaway. Been working with Neil and Jerry and Ken and Arkan and Derek and Philip and Eric, a lot of people in being able to give this stuff away. We have supported WGU's Cyber Club. They've got about 5,000, uh, at least 5,000 folks in their Cyber Club. They do monthly meetings, and we've been able to give them Security Blue Team, Try Hack Me's, TCM Security, Adrian Cantrill's All the Things courses. Adrian's been a huge supporter. one of our friends, Doug Zen, connected connected Adrian to me, and he's donated a bunch. And he just offered to donate a bunch more, and I'm like, I can't give these things away fast enough. It's an amazing course too. Like,
Right.
I have thought about like I'm just gonna enroll in one so I can do this stuff, but I've got INE assets, so I'm gonna utilize those first and give these away. And I've John Hammond's let me give things away on his channel. It's been great. Kevin Apollinario, yeah. There's a lot of people who are out there like allowing us to give things away and get a further reach, because like our LinkedIn page is going places. Hopefully, I know your YouTube channel is going to go places, and
Oh,
we'll have another community that we can give things away. Because showing up to streams, watching these videos, especially if there's like an AMA aspect or and asking questions and showing up and like learning something specific and then like being able to build on that, that I feel like helps people so much in
and
building out their career and increasing the career.
right. And maybe I can start giving some stuff away too, if
Oh yeah,
passing it along and spreading the message and getting it to as many people as possible.
yeah.
Um,
It's
mm?
yeah. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to rewind back a little bit, and I was just going to ask you another a technical or question.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, I have a lot of people ask me about pivoting from IT or help desk or desktop support and maybe
Mhm.
going into cybersecurity. Could you maybe give people some tips and advice on how to pivot into security from IT?
Yeah. Um, I've had a weird start in that because the Air Force put all IT and cybersecurity under one one vertical, where you didn't have like a chief of IT, a chief and like chief of IT security. It was just your comm squadron or your communication squadron commander was then the like CISO for the base.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also the CIO. Both had same person, same idea. Um, and so I see IT as just an extension. We had help desk. We also had like our security folks, and we had our network folk, all under the same organization. And I worked QA and training that looked over all of them and
Mm-hmm.
over all their programs as the same, in the end, same program. So how do you go from IT help desk, networking to cybersecurity? Well, you just change your focus. There's some things to learn. Like if you've been doing that job for any amount of time, hopefully you've noticed like passwords matter. Uh, User access control matters. Um, Identity management matters. Uh, Patching, configuration management matters. And you might have been hands-on participating in that. That's cybersecurity. It, I'm not like people hate that, but that's cybersecurity. Then the shift goes from making those changes and being part of like the hands, the fingers on the keyboards, making the changes that people have approved, or the strategy that comes down from above, to then how do you help shape that strategy? How do you then like work on that strategy? How do you identify the vulnerabilities that are caused by having misaligned configuration management or slow patch management or identity management that hasn't been properly configured? And so your mindset goes from making the changes to then thinking about like how does this affect the organization and what's the most secure way of doing it. And people, if they're sitting around at all like drinking coffee or smoking in the middle of their day and they are help desk, they might be thinking, you know what, a bunch of people are having trouble accessing this. Like I
Mm-hmm.
worked 5 tickets today that all had to do with password resets. Oh, me too, man. I wonder if there's a way that we could do this better. You are now talking cybersecurity.
Right.
How do we work that CIA triad? Like availability is super low. We are like whatever was implemented that made everyone have to reset their passwords today. made the availability
Right.
minimalist.
Passwords,
And that
disabling accounts. That's
exactly, was that
security too.
intended? Was it accidental? Um, and like the why behind it, and like how did we set that, how do we make that happen? Did a sysadmin like accidentally like reset, do all these things? Like maybe they like turned off the server and turned it back on, and like first thing it does is it like kills everyone's passwords, and now everyone has to reset them. Um, okay, could we do that better? Could we come up with a better process for that? And that's like, okay, well then is that system admin or is that cybersecurity, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so then comes down to it, like that's the mindset. Then it comes down to the role. And there's identifying what role you want is, I think, the hardest part for people getting into cybersecurity. I am a red team instructor for INE. I loved teaching cyber threat emulation, but there's not that many pen test jobs. Getting that mentality, I think, is one of the hardest parts. But once you start thinking about like what is malware, what is a phishing campaign, like what is pivoting, how do they get access, what is user access control, what is segmentation of the network, and least privilege, once you start thinking in all those ways, then it becomes, okay, well, what specific skills now do I need to put with my knowledge in order to do this role well? If it takes thinking like a hacker, doing some try hack me, some TCM security courses, some INE courses, penetration testing student, throw it out there. Something I've been working on. It's free. It's been free for a year now. Leads to EJPT, the $200 exam, which you get 2 attempts at, which is real world. You have to do things. We're working on. It's going to get a little upgrade just to the platform. Um, and gaining some of those skills, even if you then like, I tell people do PTS, get your EJPT if you want, whatever, learn the skills, learn the knowledge. And then from there, now think about like, okay, this was fun. Hopefully it didn't take that long. It shouldn't take that long. Um, Now what do I want to do? Do you want to be on the side thinking about like, okay, how do I stop these things? Do you want to be on the side of, okay, stuff has happened, like how do we identify it? And then how do we make it better? Um, do you want to keep doing this pen testing thing? Do you want to keep playing with that? Do you want to do bug bounties? Do you want to get bigger and start thinking cloud and cloud security and like, okay, well, this was neat. How do we make the cloud more secure? Um,
There's so many things to go into.
that's like 4 out of 54 roles.
Uh,
So
Yeah,
DevSecOps, like it can keep going. That's why I say the hardest part is identifying what role you want.
I can see that.
And there's some, I think, easier ones to get into. If someone needs to make money and get in the space, grab a help desk job. Like it will pay for like, it'll pay some bills, it'll bring in money, and you'll be surrounded by this like IT cybersecurity centric thinking. Like if you need to make money, that works. I think I've been told it works. Other people have said it works. Kevin and I have chatted about this a bit. And yeah, you want to get into the space and you need to make some money now, like go for it. Is it the only way? No. But um traditionally, I think a lot of people have thought that way. My dad was a network engineer, and I've known a lot of sysadmins and network engineers over the years, just because the community is never that big. And the idea of like doing something traditional IT and then like either accidentally or on purpose, but going from that role to cybersecurity was the way. It was kind of the only way. Like there weren't tons and tons and tons of SOC analyst roles 20 years ago. There are now. Everyone's got a
No,
SOC.
it's like threat hunting. You didn't. That wasn't a thing. you
Some
know.
people did it. They wrote books. They were in movies. I don't know. Even if you like, I love the movie Hackers. You look at Hackers, and oh man, what's his name with the lamb chop beard? And I'm blanking right now. The bad guy. Like he was the sysadmin, but he was also like the CISO, wasn't he? And like thinking about cybersecurity, and he had his SOC analysts there, and like they're pounding away, like trying to stop all the hackers. But it was like the a giant chemical company, um, with like one of the largest like supercomputers, and like with the Gibson. Man, how can I remember that? And so like they had the funds to have a SOC, but not everyone, and even that was like gimmicky movie. Uh, so like people have been doing security, but not everyone, not the same as it is now, because we just didn't have devices. Like I've got four computers right here in front of me. Like two of them are powered off, one's a phone, one I'm talking to you on. So like there's so many more devices, there's so much more connectivity we need, so many more people thinking about security. So thus we have those roles. I I've heard and I've talked with others, and SOC analyst roles tend to be at a more entry level position, more easily entry level. I know that's the fact. I've trained people to be SOC analysts, and once you get that mindset, then it's okay. How do you work with a SIEM? How
Mm,
would you follow an incident response playbook? How would you do the hands on? And that Vice help desk is not very different. Help desk tickets come in, you respond with like a checklist or with your know-how, one of those two, right? The
right.
more entry level is more checklisty. Once you have those things down, then it goes to you make things up based on like what you know, and that's when you get a higher position in help desk. It's like okay, tier one couldn't figure it out. Tier two, spent more time on it, and they like think more. Tier three, now you get your engineers. It's the same thing for SOC. SOC
Yeah.
ones are like okay, bing, hey, we've got a thing. Okay, pull up my checklist, or maybe the scene pops it up itself. Whatever, we segregate that machine, we lock down that user, we don't let anyone touch the machine, and then like then we do some troubleshooting, and then we'll call in more people, and then we elevate if it needs to be. I don't know. It's also why I don't want to do that job. Like it's fine, but
Yeah.
I've got other things I want to do with my day. But if you need a starting point, like that's something that people can do. Um,
Yes, that's something I was going to ask you. Like, what would be the easiest? And you just answered it. One of the easiest ways in entry level is SOC. Maybe could you tell me maybe a little bit like on the red side? The Would it be maybe a junior pen tester? Are they anything
yeah,
else someone could do like an entry?
yeah. Junior pen tester is the most junior red team role, and I'm not going to say it's entry level. People expect, because I've interviewed, I've applied for these roles. People expect a level of experience, um, and some of it is just it boggles my mind. It's like, oh, hey, I can talk about this, and I can run these tools, and I can do all this stuff, and they're like, okay, well, like, but have you done anything? Like, have you done any pen tests? It's like, no, I'm applying for a junior
Yeah, they're
role.
like,
I If I had done pen tests, I'd be applying for a senior role. Um, and I get a lot of it. Some of the like places I reached out, the expectation was more pay, and so thus they even though they were looking for a junior, they were looking for someone who was going to be junior on their team. That doesn't make it an entry level position. I think of entry level as like you could come in with zero experience and day one be like running. I think if you know the tools and the knowledge and the know-how, and you have someone who could like walk you through that stuff, I do think that you could do like junior penetration roles as entry level, but not a lot of companies are.
mm-mm,
That's what I found is not a lot of not very few companies are doing pen
no.
testing as an entry level position. I think it's doable, but they would be taking maybe a bit of risk. Someone who, like if you run Nessus and Nmap and you just blow through with Metasploit, you might tip over a bunch of stuff. And now the company's got to be like, okay, you've caused more problems than help, and I'm having to pay you for that. and you might learn, but there's also a lot of people who want pen test jobs. So they can be picky and be like, I'm gonna go with this guy over here. He's gonna take a $20,000 pay cut to be a junior
Uh,
pen tester. So like, I'm sorry, he's been doing this for like 8 years. I can pay him the same as I was gonna pay you. It's like, you know what? I can't be mad at that. It stinks, but I can't be mad at it. Um,
I did a couple of talking about junior pen tester roles. I did a couple mock interviews for the first time junior pen testing, which I'm more of the blue side. But
mhm,
I was like, well, I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna go for it. I didn't know what to expect, walking in, so
mhm.
I didn't do, too well the best on the interview, but I did. Of course, I can see what you're talking about because they want people. It's like that. I was too junior or not junior, no,
Yeah.
so they want someone that already knows what they're basically doing. A lot of them, although it
Mhm.
says, but to me, a lot of companies when it says in that particular company, it said like zero, like basically zero experience. But you know how it don't
Yeah.
always work that way.
Um, Often they'll want someone who's done EJPT or ECPPT, which is requires you to go into a network and do a full pen test and do a report,
Mhm.
or OSCP, just because of the number of boxes and a little bit the report at the end. Because then they go, okay, if you have those certs, like we've had those certs, and what's expected at the outcome of that, like I can work with that. I can tune you if you are an instrument that can do these steps on your own, then I can tune you more to what we do as our team. Then you're a lead, then you're senior pen tester, because it's probably going to be a team until they think you're good on your own. Um, which is also like then they're paying for two people to maybe do one person's job until you get to the point where like you pay for yourself.
Right.
Um, but I think companies need to accept that. Otherwise, you just sit around waiting for to hire senior people. Um, but it's easier to tune someone than it is to train someone from like nothing. I wish more companies had training from entry level, like take someone and like pay them $15 an hour. Like if there's a lot of people who will take $15 an hour to be a junior pen tester and like
Oh yeah.
do the grunt work, but like it's hard to. Then you need managers. Senior pen testers are not necessarily like people persons,
Like you
not
said, they
necessarily manager material. Um, like they'll take down the Gibson and they'll like kick butt, and people don't want to talk to them always. It's the weird nature of the beast when you have someone super technical. There's plenty of people who are great with other people. It's just it's a mix and it's hard. It's hard. Um,
so it's kind of like the 70-30 rule. Like if you have 70% of it, I can teach you the other 30%. Something
yeah,
like that on pen testing. If you have
yeah.
that much of it down.
I say to people, it's my big thing. I'll steal this from Neil. Like, do the free stuff first because why not? Um, you're basically investing in yourself in that case. You could pay 7 grand for something, or you could pay 20 grand for it, or $20 for it. And if you
Mhm.
get the same thing out of it, then like keep the money, invest in yourself, in that way. And as someone who like always buys cheap stuff and like makes the most out of it, that's it's just my strategy for life. But in the end, if you get the skills and you get the knowledge, like perfect. Take those and keep studying, keep pushing yourself. I think a lot of people look at like a degree or certain certs as a finish line, whereas they're stepping stones. They're steps on like this grand ladder to like your expertise in the end of your like career. Like no matter no matter where you are at, it doesn't end.
Mm-mm.
Uh, Gerald Auger just put out a video yesterday about how to become a CISO, and I haven't watched it. I've been busy the last 24 hours. But the image that he has is like this graduated stair step of like the evolution of man sort of uh, image, and like CISO was at the top right, like the highest one. But even then, I know he's a CISO, and he is constantly studying new things.
Actually
So
seen
like,
that thumbnail.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
And even then, like that's not the finish line.
Mm-mm.
You got to keep studying and learning new things because uh well shoot James Azar just mentioned it on his podcast this morning. um there's the enemy is always evolving, the technology is always evolving, and if you don't evolve with them, if you don't learn what's latest, like the whole purpose of this podcast is to keep people up to date on what they need to know as like in order to do this job. If you don't keep up to date, then you're just going to get you're going to get lost. It won't matter your experience
If,
if you like shut yourself in a room for 6 months and come
right.
back out. Like you're not going to be an effective CISO.
Yeah, if you don't love to learn every day, you're not going to make it
Yeah, it's
as
a
a
hard
cybersecurity
job.
specialist. You're just not.
Oh yeah.
If you don't want to learn, put the time and effort. Yeah,
Yep.
I love learning. You know, myself, it's it's something different every day. That's what I love about it.
It's not that different. Business is very similar. It's just we've been doing business for a long time.
Right, or
Centuries,
changing.
centuries and millennia people have been doing business. So, but like the mentality, supply demand, meeting people where they're at. If then you just like turn cybersecurity and you into that mentality, and then you're learning the specifics. Because while business hasn't changed, like people want things, you have it, it's worth value, and you can present it to them. Like how we market, how we sell, where we sell, who we sell to, that is ever changing, ever evolving. So it's not specific to cybersecurity. Being up to date on the trends, being up to date on the technology, being up to date on what the market requires, kind of goes across the board. It's just there's a bit more technicality to what we're doing in cyber and IT. So
So it's a mix of business, like you said, business too. A lot of
yeah,
business.
yeah.
Yeah.
As someone who doesn't have a computer science or a cybersecurity or an engineering degree, um, but I have an MBA, I think more in the fuzzy realm, but can apply things to like learn some technical things here and there. So I tend to more think along the what's the business require, what does the operation require. Um, Used to bug people when I was at the comm squadron. I'd be like, well, but the mission isn't to have this base in the middle of nowhere that's super secure. The mission is they need to fly, do their thing. The guys who are on the ground who are like helping this country fight terrorists. Um, that's what's happening. So we're not going to send you out there to like just set up a super secure server. You're out there to support them supporting this, making stuff happen. It's business needs in the military. It's the operation. It's the mission. Um, and I don't know. Being C-130s, we were never the game. Like a C-130 doesn't go out and end the war. C-130 goes out and supports people who are doing things to move the mission and get things done. So I've always been in this like, okay, so how does what we're doing support the end game, support the strategy, support the overall mission? Um, I think too many people in cybersecurity think we are the mission. That's not at all the case. Um, if we can get people thinking that way early on, that they're supporting the mission, that they're making business happen,
Right.
then
A lot
we
of
change the whole concept.
I've heard a lot of people say too, just to cybersecurity, basically, we're just stopping the bleeding, you know, to
Maybe.
to a point. I just hope that,
Well,
Go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, there's a cartoon that's been around and there's been memes about it, but like, hey, made the organization super secure. It's like, oh, sweet, what'd you do? It's like I turned off the power. Like, yeah. Like you did. We cannot get hacked right now. But
Right.
um didn't set the organization up for overall success. So that should be more on mindset. How do we set the organization up for success? Um, Truth be told, anyone who's working for an organization, that should always be the mindset.
Try to
If you're in
do, yeah,
marketing, if
the
you're in
best
operations,
best as
how
possible.
yeah, how are we setting
Yeah.
the organization up to succeed? Um, Good leaders, that's what they get their people thinking. Not just like, oh, you showed up today. Here's your work. Turn in your work. Goodbye. Happy weekend. At the end of the week. It's they show up. How are we going to make the organization succeed this week?
Right. And another question, Josh, for you, I get asked a lot. We'll get your opinion, take advice on it.
Yeah,
Like as far as like customer service skills and let's say communication skills when it comes to cyber security career, how important. I know we talked about this some in our cyber supply drop
yeah.
post. How important you think it is to have good
It's
people skills
yeah.
and others. Yes.
I think people skills and the ability to communicate are huge in cybersecurity. There's a lot of people who can do the task. Um, None of it's that hard. Little secret. None of what we're doing is that hard. People do it, so it's not impossible. Um, I say that about flying too. Like, it's not easy to get to do it, but to do it is not hard. Anyone with the means and the ability and like put in the position, um, has the exact same chance as anyone else of like being successful at it if they want to be. But in the end, your effectiveness is going to be a lot based on your ability to connect, to talk to your clients, talk to your coworkers, communicate up and down in the organization, and to get that, what is the mission? How do we support the mission? How is what I'm doing focused around the organizational goals? Um, that's where you find the difference between your highly successful people and your people who are getting by and roll. Um, I think that also probably sets who is keeping the company back, where the hindrances to success for an organization are usually around not being able to shape and form and understand the human piece of it and the mission piece of it. So I think it's hugely critical. It's something that people can build up in themselves. There's books, it's a mentality, it's a way of thinking. There's books, there's YouTube videos, there's some courses even on increasing mindfulness. One of my favorite books, the first book I bought on Audible, because I could find the audiobook, sure, in any library, but I wanted to have it anytime. I just I didn't want to have to like go to my library app and see if there was like a hold on it. I wanted it whenever I wanted it. It was How to Make Friends and Influence People.
Right.
And for me, it's a life changer. It's a book that I listen to at least annually. I like audiobooks rather than physical books. But uh, even though I know exactly what the book is going to say, it is useful to like go through and be like, that's right. It's important to like meet people where they're at, say their names, like connect. Um, and it's life changing. It is the big thing that I think a lot of people miss. And truth be told, I think it's a critical piece for a lot of interview skills. If you can empathize and connect with the person, reflect, mirroring goes a long way in an interview. if someone is sitting in a specific way, if they're speaking in a specific way, even if they like lilt their head, if you can mirror them, it's these weird subconscious things that go on when you start doing that, that adore people to one another, um, and makes them feel like you're interested at the same level they're interested. Um, if they're interested, they'll listen. If they'll listen, then you can share what the problem is. You can sell them on the product. You can get them, to buy into whatever it is you brought them on to talk about. So
Yeah, it's
human skills are
very
huge.
important that changing that mindset. That's all it is. You have to completely change your mindset in a positive
Yep.
way of thinking. And I've seen some different TED talks. I can't remember the exact TED talk, but it was similar to what you was talking about, mimicking,
Mhm.
each other. And oh, it just brings that that closeness, like you said, like you feel more connected to that person.
Exactly. Um, I'm a big fan of Christian Espinoza, and he recently put out the book "Smartest Person in the Room." It's not
Mm.
for everyone. I've had some great discussions with people weren't who didn't take it the same way I did, and I totally see where they're coming from. I get it. Um, it speaks to me from like a shared experience. Christian and I both went to the Air Force Academy, a little separated in years, but the organization and that school tends to have the same mentality and taught us a lot of the same things as did the rest of the Air Force. And that he in his book gets into some examples from his business. He ran a security business and has done pen testing, has done consulting, and his engineers and his pen testers have messed up business for him. They have made business hard for him before. He himself, before he realized things, um, made things hard for himself. And connecting, empathizing, thinking about what other people need, really getting into the heart of why people are doing things, why the organization is doing things, um, and understanding solves so many problems and allows for a way more effective operation. Um, those are my takeaways from the book.
Yeah.
There's a ton. Every time I listen, that's another one I've got on audiobook, and every time I listen to it, I'm like, I take notes. I'm like, I'm gonna make a post and a video about this. I'm gonna make a post and a video about that, and then like, it's a long list, and it's like right over there, and I just haven't. I would love to have the time to just sit and write, but I don't.
Yeah, I can't
Um,
wait to read that book myself whenever I get it in. So
yeah,
yeah, I'm
nice,
looking forward to it.
awesome.
I think maybe I have a couple more questions. If you have, I don't know how much time you have.
Sure,
Uh,
let's do two more.
two more.
Yeah,
All right. All right. All right. Can you tell us, the audience, how, let's say someone coming from a non-technical background, what kind of positions or what kind of advice would you have for someone like that wanting to go into cybersecurity?
yeah. So identifying why. Why do you want to get into cybersecurity? Is it the pay? Is it the excitement? Is it something look cool? Is it you want to do something specific? Like I love puzzles and I want to tear apart a company and find like all their vulnerabilities. Or I want to tear apart a computer and find out how the hackers got in. Similar, similar mindset of problem solving, but different aspects of what you would do. So like your threat hunting, Vice, and your D for Vice pen testing could be like that similarly, but very different in everyday like activity. So identifying what role you want to do is a crucial first step. and you don't have to be right. That's a great thing. You just got to pick something. And I think if you start down a road, then you will eventually get closer to all of the possibilities. But if you start pointing to all of them separately, you end up moving a lot slower. I like sailing. There's this thing with like sailboats. If
Hmm.
you need to go upwind, usually you have to tack back and forth, and you make like this zigzag thing because you need the wind to be on your sail. So you can't point right at the wind. It just doesn't work. Um, trying to learn cloud, and then trying to learn pen testing, and then trying to learn reverse engineering, and trying to learn Splunk, and trying to learn all these things. Like it's like being on a tack on a sailboat. Like you'll get there, but being on a
Hmm.
close haul tack all day long is tiring and it's slow. If you point to a job and like, okay, how do I get better and more prepared for this role? It's it's more like either being like on a broad reach or a beam reach, and having the wind push you more rather than fighting your way upwind. So you cover in the distance you cover, you get closer to your goal. And the irony is like you end up getting closer to all of your possible goals. Because if you become a good pen tester, guess what? The difference between a good pen tester and a good threat hunter aren't that different. Talked to a bunch of people, I've looked at the different roles, and I've taught it. And it's if you can master the skills in one, then you can actually master the skills in the other pretty fast. But you got to pick one. If you try to like master both skills at the same time, like you'll get there. You just might be really tired, and it may take a lot longer than you expected.
That's my thing. I try to learn too much at one time,
Oh yeah,
but I love it though. Mhm.
I get that. I 100% reflect that as well. Uh, it was something for me, so that like I had to pick something and like follow that road. Once I got into like cyber threat emulation, and then like Heath's practical hacking came out, and I dove into that, and then EJPT and PTS and OSCP, and like studying PWK. Um, it just like it wasn't
It's
at a certain point I wasn't learning much new, but I was getting a lot closer to like being better at different skills
right.
overall. And could I pivot that to threat hunting? It's like, yeah, I can look at registry and services and memory and find your IOCs. Could I have done that before? No. Like I had to go down this road and methods of stuff and understand what it is we're doing that I'm looking for.
So you
And you
start
could go
out.
the yeah, you could go the other route,
Hmm.
trying to figure out how to like find those things. Like usually the SOC analyst leads to incident response leads to threat hunter. Is a fairly traditional pathway, and it's because it goes the other way around. Like you're responding to things, okay, and then you become better at responding to things and understanding more than what your checklist is, and then you're at the point where you're writing the checklist because you've seen so much and you understand so many different threats and how they need to be responded to. And now that you've responded to so many threats, it's like, okay, now you're looking for what did they leave behind, what signs were there, and like how can we see if there are even threats, how do we identify those threats. Like we we've been working with the software with someone who's found all of these things. Well, like how can I find those things? How can I set up tools and make tools to do that? And then that's where you're like, oh, now I'm a threat hunter. I mean,
It's
it's more
like
than that. I'm someone
right. It's
someone
like
in that
learning.
mindset might get to me and be like, that's not how it is at all. But it's a little easier than being like, I don't know, than jumping around.
It's just like taking those little focusing on one thing and then do it, pivoting to something else, and
Yeah.
just like building blocks, like you said, starting out as a SOC and then going to incident response. And than maybe a threat
Yeah.
hunter, or either maybe getting so you could go maybe into threat intelligence or
Hmm.
something afterward, or you could pivot, just whichever, like you said,
Yeah.
direction that you wanted to go on the defensive side.
And we haven't even talked about like GRC at all. These are we talked about two of like er, two of the beginning roles, but auditing even before an organization like has a SOC, even before an organization does a pen test, like you can set up auditing. Like there are best practices out there. I literally recording. I've got my like I need backdrop up so I can record. I'm right recording a course right now on auditing fundamentals as part of pen tester student. Because you need to understand like a pen tester needs to understand what auditing is, and auditing I think is the first step. There's frameworks and there's some compliance and like regulations. So if a company and an organization starts with those, they don't even need the pen tester yet. They just like, okay, are we doing this simple basic thing? Well, let's check. Like, what do we have set up? Like, what are our technical controls? What are our management controls? What are our organizational controls? Um, that are our starting point. How do we initiate those? How do we come up with something for our organization that then we can hand over to the system admins to like implement? Um, and you don't have to be like the CISO to come up with that.
Mhm.
If someone understands cybersecurity and can think in a business mindset, then you could probably enter a GRC role um, without too much trouble. Learn some auditing tools and like how to ask questions. If you have someone who's later in life who's pivoting into cybersecurity, if they get what it is we're stopping, if they get how we put up our defenses and our controls, and then they specialize and like learn, well, not even specialize, if they learn some of the frameworks, aka go out, Google them, read them a bit, be like, oh, okay, I think I see how you would implement this. Like read 27,001 and then read 27,002, go, okay, it wants us to do that and it says to do it in this way. All
Right.
right, I think that could make sense. Okay, now how do we do that in our organization? And people could consult in that if they've studied COBIT, um, ISO, uh, the NIST or CIS frameworks and benchmarks, and understand how to like implement those things, which isn't terribly difficult to learn. Like, and you can learn it for free, and you can get all those things that I just talked about, the framework and the benchmarks for free from those organizations. Then you could turn around and be like, okay, hey, I see you are a company that is like coming up from nowhere. Like, could I help consult for you in implementing some cybersecurity to keep your data and your customers safe? And in today's day and age, like, might actually have like a lot of like a good chance of making that happen.
Right. And I do think GRC, it is the backbone to any company, starting.
Yeah, I mean, you got to start your thinking about cybersecurity and how to implement cybersecurity before you even think about like, okay, how do we read our all of our logs? Like, how do we run a pen test? Like, well, let's slow back down. Do we have good password management? Do we have
Right.
good user controls? Who
Right.
has admin rights on the system? Like Bob's got system admin rights? Bob cleans people's teeth. He does not need to be the system admin.
All right. I got one more question for you, Josh. And
Mhm.
I was thinking about the Try Hack Me and Range Force. Could you give me your thoughts about how good or how much that you like, Try
Yeah,
Hack Me and Range Force, and maybe tell people a little bit about those that's unfamiliar.
yeah. So it goes into the whole do the free stuff first. Um, you've got kind of a blue mentality and a red mentality, but they're all mixing nowadays, which is great. Um, because I feel like more options is better for everyone. Try Hack Me, Hack the Box, Range Force, Security Blue Team, Let's Defend, Over the Wire, Under the Wire, less cyber, more just IT in general. But they're all labs where people can go and for free learn and play with the skills to do these different roles. And they've all got a free tier, even like Hack the Box Academy starts out. Hack the Box itself has a great free tier. To learn and then to implement some of the skills that you learn. I really like Range Force and how they set things up. Their community edition is free. I think you register, they contact you, and then you get access to it. But I think one of the first modules in there is Splunk, and they walk you through like how to use Splunk on their environment. Like it's a browser, it's a GUI inside the browser on a remote desktop that is set up to walk you through reading logs, walking your way through Splunk, answering questions about like incidents that they have in their environment. And if you do the basics, like the pre-security and then security basics for Try Hack Me or PTS on INE, or just go and like read a Sec Plus book or watch Professor Messer's like videos to understand what the basis of security is, then you can go and be like, oh, okay, I see it. I see it here. I could do this. If someone gave me a Splunk dashboard and said, hey, go find this incident from, November 1st of last year, be like, okay, well, I saw how to do that. Like you can pull it up, log in, and like, I found it. Like, here's the IP address, here's the date, like, here's the URL that like launched it all. If you can do that, like, awesome. You're, I don't know, you're able to like, if you can do those hands-on things, then it's like, okay, well, hey, the SIEM alerted and it said that this happened, like, go check it out. I know how to go check it out. And like, guess what? Many of the SIEMs are very similar.
Mm.
Be- so like, if you can learn one, then learning the others are not terribly difficult.
Right.
If you can ride one bike, you can probably ride another bike.
That's another reason I ask you maybe to talk a bit about range forces, because I feel like a lot of people is unfamiliar with range force, and it's
Mm,
such a good because I'm on the community edition myself, and it's such a good. I mean, so it's so good, especially being free. I mean, you just can't
right?
beat it.
And if you're a student, I want to say it's like $50 for a year of like their full thing. If you've got a .edu email address, or it's something. Yeah, it was something that I thought was super reasonable for what you get. Um, even if it's $100 for a year access to like their full course with a student edition, like it's huge. Uh, yeah. Um, I'm a big fan. I I looked at working with them.
Mhm.
And I like their platform a lot. Their lab environment is really unique. I like that once it pops you into the GUI of that desktop, then it's got the instructions as well as the tools that you need to work with. And depending on how you interact with those tools, like it answers your questions right there. You're like, oh,
Like a
it
real
knows.
life
Like
scenario. Yeah.
it knows that I clicked on that. Um,
Mhm.
the programming of the interrupts, like and how you had set that all up was kind of mind-boggling to me. I was excited when I first tried it, and I was like, "Oh man, the engineering behind it's so cool." Um,
Mhm.
I don't know. I think it's fairly novel compared to a lot of things. Most trading is you do a thing, you find a flag, even if the flag is like just the IP address. You find a flag and then you go and pop it in somewhere and see if it's true. And it's got that some places, but sometimes it's like, okay, go to this page, find this thing at that date, and click on the IP address. And you click on it, and it's like, poof, correct, and it moves on to the next task. And you're like, what?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah. So I love the platform. I'm a huge fan, and the the free community edition is pretty great. They put out challenges, and those are free. while the challenge is running, and if you complete it, then it usually, I think you get prizes or access to more courses, um, which is awesome. I love that. Put an effort with something that's free, and when you show that you've done the effort, then you get more free stuff. That just makes you better. Yeah, I love that they do that. So
All right. Well, I just want to tell you I appreciate you being on my show today, Josh, and it's been an honor having you on. And did you have any final words that you would like to say before we hop off today? Or
this was an honor, David. I'm excited to see where your show and your blogs and cyber supply drop goes from here. Um, I know we have big things planned. I've been working with our board and reaching out to some of our donors to get an idea more of what we want to do and where we want to grow with cyber supply drop. And we've got some really big things planned down the road. Um, Anyone who's starting out, you can do it. It's not always easy, but come up with a game plan. Do the free stuff first, and free to you. If you're a veteran, if you find a scholarship, do it. You don't have to well, I'm not gonna, get a scholarship for the SANS course because I'm just gonna do PTS. Well, do PTS, but also apply for that scholarship. I don't know, more education for free is not bad. Um, Paying a few bucks for something worthwhile can be worthwhile. It becomes a what can you afford and what do you want to afford? Uh, I don't believe in going into debt for training when there is so much free available. I don't believe in expensive boot camps. Um, I don't believe in college courses to get you into cybersecurity unless there is known rewards at the end. Um, Start with the free stuff. Start with the free stuff and see where you can go from there because it works. I've seen a lot of success stories and I know a bunch of success stories. So let's start there. Give it a try. Cool.
all right. Well,
Thanks, David.
thank you, Josh, and thank you for your kind words there. And again, if anyone has any questions, just feel free to reach out to Josh. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
You can also find me on LinkedIn, and if you have any questions at all for me, just feel free to reach out, and I'll do the best I can to help you. And again, Josh, will have a great day, and we'll see you on the show. The next I'd like to have you again the next time or
Gladly.
sometime.
Let's do it.
All right, all right. See you, Josh.
See you, David.